G'day everyone and welcome back to another episode of Practical Powerlifting. In this episode, I speak to Daniel Featherston, commonly referred to as Chunks. He's one of the co-owners of a popular powerlifting gym here in Melbourne who competed at our TSF Team Champs actually, SR Strength Collective. He's a young coach, but one who's garnered a lot of experience and a strong reputation already. Our conversation was fantastic. He shared a lot of his passion and energy around powerlifting. And one thing that really stood out to me was how clear his value systems were with respects to becoming a good powerlifter. And that is training hard, sticking to the plan, long-term commitment. He wasn't one for gimmicks or shortcuts or secrets. It's as simple as put in the work, put in the time, and it will come. We also spoke about a very interesting topic with respect to burnout and his approach to dealing with burnout and dealing with boredom in training and how lifters can move past this. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. And I don't have much more than that. Bye. Daniel Featherston, it's good to have you on Practical Powerlifting.
Good to be here, man.
You're another one of the coaches in Melbourne who I think has a lot to share, and you've had an interesting kind of trajectory. But for those that don't know who you are, do you want to give us a quick introduction of who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Daniel Featherston. I am one of the owners out of Strength Collective in Altona, one of the powerlifting gyms on the west side of Melbourne. I've also been known as Chunky Boy Prime. I've been a coach for close to 5 years now. In terms of powerlifting space, I've probably been in there for the past 3 years. So I am a pretty young coach in terms of like being in the space comparative to some of the other guys that you've had on this podcast. So, I've been running the gym for close to 2 years with my business partners, Edgar DeGay and Jaden Rowe, who are both powerlifting coaches. They're also bodybuilding as well. And yeah, I've just been a lover of powerlifting for quite a few years now. It's been an awesome experience, growing in the sport and being a part of this sport for however long it's been going on for in Melbourne. But that's about me.
The Strength Fortress TSF, we're obviously in Maidstone, and so we're another Westie gym. And I think we've got a pretty good culture of powerlifting gyms in the western suburbs, with you guys and us. And ESS, obviously, it's good to have another powerlifting gym in the west because the western suburbs of Melbourne aren't so big, but there's quite a lot of powerlifting going on.
Yeah, and it's definitely been since you guys have been going on for quite a while now, and I could imagine that it must have been a little bit lonely for you guys in the first few years. Then, ESS came about, actually there was Obsidian before that, and then, we came about. So I think from the west side now, it's really, there's been a good culture of powerlifting growing, and it's been kind of like, even though, it's all the west side, we are kind of separated a little bit, Derrimut is a bit further away from Maidstone. Maidstone's a little bit out the way from Altona. So it's not like, I wouldn't say we're stepping on each other's toes, but we are kind of, creating this community in the west side of powerlifting.
Yeah, absolutely. You said you haven't really been coaching for very long. So run me back a little bit. So how long have you been coaching again? How long have you been lifting? Just run me back the numbers.
Yeah, so in terms of like my coaching career, actually, I should start in my lifting career. So I was lifting since I was like 14, but I wasn't really doing any powerlifting. I was just kind of like, watching the old CT Fletcher and Carly Muscle and stuff like that and just following whatever they were doing. And I've always had kind of like a love for lifting heavy things. I didn't think that it was really conducive to growing muscle. I always thought that like that was the goal. I need to, get bigger, which, is the goal for, getting stronger. But I was like, I can't really be doing deadlifts because that's not the way to go. And then I ran into Edgar, who's my business partner, and we were training out of a gym called Inspirational Health and Fitness, just down the road from here in Black Shores Road. And, we created this like powerlifting community there with a bunch of our mates. And that's where I started powerlifting. So I started competing in 2019. My first ever comp was at Avia Performance. And then from there, I started to, do a bit more comp. Second was Obsidian. Then lockdown happened. During lockdown, I did my Bachelor of Exercise Science course, and I started doing personal training after that. And it wasn't until I went to Melbourne University Lifting Club, I started doing powerlifting coaching. That was kind of like my first gig. I was doing a bit of like, coaching by myself, like with like, I guess it was online coaching at the time, handing out programs and stuff, but that was where I really started. And that was close to God, I think it's about 3 years now. So yeah, so I'd say that's where my powerlifting career, properly started. Then I started doing more, my own personal training, like general population type stuff. And I started to, get more clients who were more interested in powerlifting. And that's where I kind of did my own thing with powerlifting, created that community. And then eventually, 2 years ago, I created the gym with Edgar and Jaden. And that's where we kind of like put all of our communities together. Because we were all like, Edgar was doing his personal training and powerlifting coaching for a bit, but his community was still a little bit small. So us putting all of our, clients together and our communities together really made like a big community on the West Side, in a West Side specifically. So yeah, that was about 5 years of coaching before I really kind of like built up this powerlifting coaching thing. I still do general population clients, and I still, like, to this day, I love coaching gen pop clients, like one-on-one and stuff like that. But I do have a large base of powerlifting clients when it comes to that coaching. So I am a bit of both, where it is that personal training, general population side, but also I've got that powerlifting coaching side. So yeah, but then competing wise, yeah, that's been about close to 6 years now. And with coaching, it was about 4 to 5 years, I'd say.
Yeah, I appreciate the background because I think the background and context behind coaches says a lot, or not says a lot, but gives us a lot of an understanding as to how they came to be and what their background is and what they're actually doing now. So yeah, as you said, like a little bit of a younger coach, but you've been running your gym now for a couple of years. Was the gym, like SI Collective, was that like a natural progression, or was that something that you always wanted to do, or how did that kind of come to be?
I think from the very start, when I did, when I was trying to figure out my career, I did want to be a personal trainer. I think coming out of high school, I didn't know how to really do it. I didn't know the direction because, people always telling you it's like, there's no money in it. There's no money in it. So when you hear that, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. So, but I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'll just go in that direction and see what happens. I have really been a person to do that, where the type of person to do that, where I'm like, if people say, this could be an issue or this could be an issue, I'm like, let's fucking figure it out as we go. Like, you can predict as much as you want, but sometimes it's never really going to be the same outcome. It could be negative, it could be positive. When some people are saying it's going to be negative, it could be a positive outcome. When some people are going to say it's positive, it could be a negative outcome. You don't know until you do it. So, and it seems to be working out, so I think I've made the right choice. But from there, like, I went kind of like hearing people say, like, oh, in personal training, there's not much money. You're paying, $250 to almost $500 a week on rent, so you're not really making enough money. I always thought, I'm like, so wouldn't running your own gym be where like the success is, And I just had it in the back of my mind for a while, and it wasn't until I was talking to Edgar after not seeing him for a while. I was doing my own thing, doing group fitness classes out of Hoppers Crossing and doing my own PT and stuff, that we had a chat, and I was kind of like, look, I like coaching, but I don't really like working under the people that I was working under at the time. It wasn't really enjoyable. There was a lot of politics. I couldn't coach the way I wanted to coach because there was a lot of limitations. And I was really like, the reason I made it is because I wanted to, again, coach the way I wanted to coach. I wanted to go in a direction where it's, I could help people train hard. I could help people, get better in resistance training, rather than giving them, a group circuit and doing cardio and all this different shit. It just wasn't what I was interested in, and I wasn't enjoying that. So look, the real main reason was actually so I could coach the way that I wanted to coach without the limitations, without having someone over me being like, you shouldn't be doing that because of this. And it doesn't, it's not really because it doesn't work for health goals. It's just, it didn't work for the business goals. So, I now have my business goals, and my business goals in line with my coaching goals. So that was my main reason. Plus, there wasn't really that, other than, ESS and TSF, where we were located on that Altona, Newport, Williamstown side, there was no powerlifting. It just wasn't there. And, some people it was a bit of a struggle to get to TSF, and some people it's a bit of a struggle to get to ESS. So, we built this community and we built this space for those people to be able to come to our gym. And we do have a few people that are coached by other people from ESS or even from TSF and even from, the east side. And they're based in a space that it's a bit too hard to get to those gyms. So we've made that space for those guys to be able to come in there and train at a proper gym with proper equipment rather than that commercial bench presses that they slip on or it's too small or isn't comp spec. So that's what we wanted to make here.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys are doing some good stuff there at the collective. I mean, most recently, I wanted to quickly talk about some of the success you guys have had at our comp at Team Champs, but also some of the upcoming projects that you guys are kind of running. You got your champion of the collective comp in a couple of weeks. But yeah, in a very short run, you guys have been doing really well. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the success you guys had at Team Champs, because you guys have killed it. And I think speaking to a few people afterwards, I will say numerous good coaches pointed out that they didn't even expect you guys to survive into next year's Premier bracket. So for those that might not remember or haven't been following, Team Champs happened a few months ago. SI Collective were in the Premier bracket and absolutely killed it. And I think you guys finished, remind me,
fourth. It was fourth, yeah. We just missed the top three.
Yeah, but it was an awesome day. Like some of the lifters that you had there, like Karoo and Lagi, of course, just like awesome sessions. And for such a small and new gym, you guys really held your own.
Yeah, honestly, the outcome was we were so stoked with how we did. And look, we put a team together. So last year when we put the team together, our main goal was get to the Premier bracket. That was our only goal. We didn't really care where we placed overall. I don't even remember where we placed overall. I know that we placed it was second on the first day or something like that. So we placed pretty well on the first day, but we weren't bothered about being okay, we want to place top 3 overall. So we decided this year that this was look, we're going to put together the best team we possibly can with the people that we have. And, after a year, we start getting a bit more clients. After a year, people start getting stronger. So we were able to kind of put together quite a formidable team, which we were stoked. So we had Eddie, who at the time he was going through his bodybuilding prep. So he was able to drop weight class down, which he was able to then, his main goal was to just be if I can keep my total at 83 at 77 kilos, I'll be able to, 74 kilos, sorry, I'll be able to smoke some people. Annie, my partner, she did absolutely amazing. She was in the 57s this year, and she did perfect. She did amazing. She had one of her best performances to date, so she was able to put some points up for the team. Aaron Karoo was in there with an absolute, I don't even know what came about him. He was amazing. He was a different beast. He was just going in there absolutely, he did exactly what he wanted to do. I think he had 3 goals. He missed out on one, which was the 800 total, but the other 2 goals, which was I think place first and I think it was squat something specific. I don't really remember, but he was able to achieve that, and that got us up there. And then Laggy was really kind of the I would say either the cherry on top or the straw that broke the camel's back, where that just got us. Maybe. Yeah, that just got us over. So it was like a perfect day come together where just everything fell into place with everyone doing their job. No one really kind of went out of place with what they were trying to do. And at the end of the day, we just had such a fun day. It was so much fun. And it was kind of I've had those experiences of having, going in there as a coach, powerlifting as a sport, where I was able to, do trick plays and all this shit. But that was the one where the outcome was for something big, where it wasn't just a local comp or it wasn't just for someone to get a PB. It was for our team. And it was to represent the gym. So it was really fun day. The outcome was awesome. And from here, we just want to do better. I don't know how much better we can get, but that's our goal. And it would just be progressively getting better and better each and every year.
Yeah, from my perspective as the meet director, I really felt the importance and weight that you put on the meet. You really wanted your club to do well. I don't know. I could just tell how seriously you were taking it.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that and why you've really felt it was important that you guys do well as a club.
I feel it was, look, we did really well last year. We really did well. And I think that really helped us stay on the map or get put on the map at that first year, because it would have been our first year. I think, yeah, because we did 2020. Yeah, it would have been our first year doing that comp as a team. So that really put us on the map. And going into the Premier bracket, and nothing on the other coaches that didn't really like think that we would place that high, but I think we did come in there with something to prove, where people did say, yeah, okay, ESS are going to go on top, or Uplift is going to go on top, or TSF is going to, whatever. And I think that being underestimated, not that we were upset or offended by it, we were like, look, they can underestimate us, but what if we do really well? What if we can go in there and kind of prove them wrong? Or, I think going in there and being placed fourth or fifth would have done the job, you know what I mean? But to go in there and to, cut down some of the best lifters on the day, that Laggy and Lotta, head to head was awesome. And that really proves that, we don't just have people who are strong. Us as coaches, we know the decisions to make, and we know the right decisions to make to go in there and actually do the best we can. So going in there, I think it was like, we really need to prove something, and we did. We proved. I'll say we proved the haters wrong, but everyone was just, they're being very logical. They were just saying, from the stats, they would be placing this much on the day. So, but we did better than people expected, and I think that really kind of proves that we are a team to be to watch out for in the next couple of years.
For sure, man. And it's also very validating, right? It's like all the stuff you're doing, all the work you guys are doing. It's like, hey, it's working. We're a strong club. And like you said, you get to have that competitive aspect as a coach where, you're really challenged as a coach to go, one, I've got to get the most out of my lifters, but two, I've also got to get the best out of the results. Like, I've actually got to pick the right weights and squeeze every kilo and know when to push, but know when to hold back, all that kind of, those are challenges that you don't get to face very often. Yeah. You guys killed it. And speaking about comps, you guys are hosting a comp very soon.
Next Sunday.
What is the champion of the collective?
Yeah, so this will be our second comp of the year. The champion of the collective, so we did Clash to the Collective 2 at the start of this year, which was a really fun comp. We had a few really great lifters lift on the day, Will Warden included, which he won the belt, so he's taken that home. But we have the champion of the collective coming up next Sunday, and we were really deciding on how to kind of approach this comp, whether it's we just say, look, this should just be another local comp that we just chill out, don't really do much on. But we did have I was in charge of looking out for the sponsorships and stuff, and I think I did a really good job at doing that, because we actually have a $1,500 prize pool coming up at this comp, so which we're really, really stoked about. And the fact that the prize pool got up so much, we were like, look, we've got to do something cool with this comp. So we it is a similar size. We're only going to do one session just because the space is not massive for a 2-session comp, and we just want to run nice and smooth comp. But we've got a 1-session comp which has been filled out, I believe, with a $1,500 prize pool. We have a really sick trophy, which is just their replica sword from Conan the Barbarian. It was, I don't know if it's the smartest or the dumbest idea we've ever made, but it got people into the gym, into the comp, and a lot of people are looking forward to fighting for that. So we'll see how that goes. But it was just, I think this is like our end of year comp. It's our comp that we would kind of want to finish off with the bang. And we really have, we've done everything we could to kind of like elevate the comp up. Prize pool, massive trophy. We've got some really cool lifters coming in. There's going to be a post coming out putting up who's going to be potentially placing on the podium, which should come out tomorrow, so you can keep an eye out for that. But I reckon there'll be some sick battles coming in, because it's not only going to be a comp where you're going to try and win your weight class, it's a comp where you're trying to go up against other people in different weight classes, because there's some money on the line, which is good. So the cash will be for best male, best female, but not only that, will come in second and third place as well. So, even if you come third or second in the best male or female, you still win some money. So, but I think that people will still go towards that first place because, it's more money. So I think that's what people want to achieve.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's going to be a great comp. I mean, to get prize money at local comps is always hard. So you're obviously doing something right. And you kind of mentioned to me how important it is to run good comps, and you've had some good experiences. I know recently, you competed in our comp, you put together your 700 kilo total, which was freaking awesome.
Thank you.
But organizing comps is something that has clearly become a bit of an interest point for you, I guess, or a passion point.
Yeah, it has. Our first comp would have been last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember. No, 2 years ago, which was Clash of the Collective 1, which was, I'll say, extremely successful. We got it two sessions sold out completely. That was the introduction of the Clash of the Collective belt, which I will say was my idea. The sword was Edgar's though, so I don't. We'll weigh up who was better there. And we yeah, it was a great comp. It was a lot of fun, and just that comp, that was I didn't coach anyone. I didn't have any role other than meet director that day. And because I was freaking out, I was like, there's going to be so many issues popping up, I'm going to need to put out so many fires and stuff like that. But on the day, it ran really it ran really smoothly. Everyone did their job. The spotters and loaders did amazing, the tech desk did amazing, social media, all that different stuff. And running it, like, it was so stressful the week of, where I was like, fuck, we need to do this, we need to do that. There's so many different things that we need to do. And then when you put it all together, and the day is, look, it's not, the day isn't easy. It's a hard day as meet director. You're running around, you're either doing one job that someone else can't do, or you're trying to make sure someone does this better or whatever. But when it's all done, you look back at it, and even though, again, you're tired, you want to go home, you just want to go to bed, you want to have a shower, but you're like, that was so much fun, I want to do that again. It's funny looking back at those things where all I have is fond memories of running comps, of helping, Edgar run a comp, Jaden run the comp, and all that different stuff. But during it, it's fucking hell. I would, like, the day before, you're just stressed out because you're like, I forgot this, I forgot that. But then afterwards, you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do that again. It's one of those experiences. It's almost like skydiving, where when beforehand, you're shitting yourself, you jump down, it's the worst experience, then you do it, and you're like, yeah, I'll do that again because it was amazing. It's almost the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely adrenaline dump kind of days. Um, and yeah, anyone that's run a comp knows it's kind of like running any kind of a big event. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of people are depending on you. And, from my point of view, I always want lifters to feel like they have a good experience. Like, I think any coach, especially any powerlifting coach, knows that when someone does their first comp, it can be a very powerful day, right? It can be a very emotive day, one where people kind of discover their passion for a sport. They go, okay, I'll dip my toes in, I'll do my first comp, I'll see what it's like, and they do the comp, and they're like, wow, that was amazing, I want to do that again. And a lot of that hinges on the meet director. You got to have a day that's fun, that's accessible, that's comfortable. Whereas if you're running a meet that's not those things, that might be a negative experience. Not necessarily a negative experience. It's very hard to find someone who has a negative experience at a first comp, but
Yeah.
not quite the positive experience that it could possibly be. And so, yeah, there is a lot of work that goes into it. But once you get your systems down pat, I mean, like, you guys are only new, right? So once you've got your systems down pat and everything's kind of like running like clockwork, it does become easier. And that stressful Friday or the stressful day before becomes less stressful. I can tell you that from experience. I want to talk a little bit about your coaching practice because it has evolved a little bit over the time. And one thing that you said earlier, which really stood out to me, was the words, you want to coach it the way you said, I want to coach the way that I wanted to coach. And you were kind of being restricted and held back, I suppose, in other coaching roles that you had. What does that mean? Like, what is the way that you want to coach? What are the things that make it feel like you're coaching in a way that feels true to you? And what are those important elements? And have those things changed? I mean, that was when your first coaching gig, I suppose, and that led you to the gym. And now that you're in your own space where you can do what you want, has what you wanted to do evolved?
For sure. Like, look, I would say that it's definitely evolved. It's ever evolving. I'm ever learning. I'm ever evolving. I'm taking things from the people. I meet so many people in this industry, and it's awesome. And hearing the things that they say, I never really want to be too much like they're wrong. I'm never going to say like that. So I take as much as I can. But definitely, I did feel like when I first started as a personal trainer, I was very narrow-minded at the start. It was a Dunning-Kruger effect. It's always like that for PTs. I think it's very, very telling when that type of effect is affecting a PT, because you can really see with how they coach and the content they bring out. But I was really restricted with how I wanted to coach, where, there was a set rules, because I used to work at a group fitness place, and there was a set rules you have to follow. You have to do 15 minutes of cardio, 15 minutes of training, weight training, 15 minutes of this and stuff. And I was very limited with the amount of time that I could try and teach someone. So I had to adapt with how quickly I had to teach someone how to do a movement. And the thing is, when you only have a minute to teach a squat to someone who's never done a squat before, it's not the best squat they're going to do, because it's very, very hard. So I was looking at it where when I started doing one-on-ones a lot more at that place and at a different place that I was working at, I was enjoying that so much more, where I could have one-on-one time with that person. I was able to teach them how to do something properly. I wasn't looking around at other people to try and figure out if they're doing it right. I was able to teach that one person. So I was thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm able to do a better job one-on-one. How else can I do this? And it was to make a gym, and it was to make a gym with the equipment that I wanted to have. And it was really like learning that, where I was able to, the one-on-one was a lot better. I wasn't restricted at all. It felt so much better for me because I was able to express myself as a coach. But as soon as I was able to do that, I was able to put in other things in practice where, I learned a new thing, either it was a bench tech thing or whatever. I was like, how can I make sure this works? Okay, do it in practice. And I was able to evolve that way, where I was able to practice a lot more rather than just looking at the theory of things or looking at, I was able to practice it a lot more. So being able to do that, not being restricted with, another person's goal in mind. It's my goal. Obviously the client's goal and the individual's goal, but I'm able to help them the way that I believe is the way to help, rather than someone else telling me how they will do better that way. I was able to help the way that I wanted to help. And it really helped me evolve as a coach, for sure.
Yeah, the one thing that stands out to me when you described the way that you want to coach is you use the word teach, I reckon, 12 times. And so that really tells me that, a core tenet of your coaching is education.
100%. I think that I'm, the person, depending on what type of a client you have, but I always look back at the Gen Pop clients that I started off with, because that's where I learned like everything, basically, from general population clients. It's all the hours that you put in on the gym floor, and it's not just that you're on the gym floor teaching high level athletes. You're teaching mums and dads how to do something specific, and how to, how can they get the tools that they need to achieve the goals that they have. And it's all about teaching. It's all about education, because you can't just look, you can give them a program for them to follow to a T, but sometimes, there's specific things that you need to teach on the program, or, nutrition wise, you're not really just telling them exactly what to eat. They need to acquire the tools that they need to be able to achieve the goals that they have. They need to figure out, okay, when something goes wrong, what can they do to still achieve that goal? Because if you're just telling them one thing to do and something else pops up and they're not able to do that thing that you told them to do, that's not teaching them. That's just an order. That's just a direction. So you need to make sure that you're teaching them. They acquire the skills, they acquire the tools that they need to be able to achieve their goals. So it's definitely, I love telling people why I'm giving them something, because they are able to understand something. They are able to understand that, and then they can figure something out themselves. Because how are you going to figure out what's wrong with someone's squat? How are you going to figure out what's wrong with the program if they don't understand that program, or if they don't understand that movement themselves? You need to make sure you educate them, because then that helps them communicate to you, and it's just back and forth, because the smarter they get in what they're trying to do, the smarter you get in what you try and do as well. It's back and forth. It's always education. It's always teaching. That's what I always see. It's always that, that teaching and that back and forth with the student and the teacher.
Do you find there are differences in your approach between general pop and more competitive powerlifters? I mean, firstly, I always find it a little bit funny, the distinction between gen pop and powerlifting clients or athletes, because what I often say is, well, powerlifters are general pop. Like, I'm general pop. Like, I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy, just like you're just a guy, or whoever the client is in front of you. So yeah, maybe like talk me through about how you see that there are differences, and like maybe how that kind of manifests in your actual.
Yeah, I never really think too much about the differences. Like, I guess like it's probably that the way you approach them, like, is probably a bit different. Like with like the powerlifting athletes, they want to do something that's really hard. So you be hard on them. Look, you always listen to them if they're going through some shit. Like, obviously, make sure they're doing okay. But you can kind of help them understand that what they're trying to do is it's a hard thing. So I think the approach is probably more on the psyche rather than it's their, like, obviously the programming is completely different. Look, I might be giving a gym pop client a squat, but I wouldn't really be worrying about, I could give them a box squat the whole way through. It doesn't really matter. But with a powerlifter, there's specificity, and you need to make sure that they're doing squat, bench, and deadlift. Those things are hard to do. So I think that it's more the approach and the psyche than anything. I think that that's really the approach that I like to take.
But you'd say that the way that you go about educating them would be similar?
Very much so. Like, it's in terms of like the education, it will be educating them on how to approach things mentally more so. But in terms of like the way that I, teach them something, I'm doing that all the way through. Like, I'm doing that on Gen Pop clients to powerlifting clients, the way that I teach them how to do, whatever I've done in the program. If I've changed something, I want them to know why I changed that. It's not because I just did it for the fuck of it. I did it because I want to make sure that they, because of a reason, and I want them to make sure that they understand that.
I've been thinking about your story before about, running group fitness classes, having very limited time. You've got to do 15 minutes of cardio, 15 minutes of this. And I think one of the challenges that comes to my mind is when you're dealing with people who care about their health and fitness, but don't care about how it's done. And so I think of like, I don't know, I love dumb analogies. So the dumb analogy that comes to my mind is like, you love getting around, but you might not be a car guy. And so when your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic and you're like, dude, just fix my car. I don't care how it gets done. And if your mechanic starts teaching you about like, the details, it's like, dude, I don't really care. Just like get it done so I can keep going to where I want to go. I need to get to work. I need to go to the gym. I need to live my life. I'm not a car guy. Just get my car fixed. And similarly, I've had clients in the past who don't care. And it's not that they don't care about their fitness. They don't care about the details. And so sometimes I find trying to educate them or trying to force, that down their throats can almost be counterproductive. And I have to kind of like tame how much detail I want to give them. Whereas on the contrary, sometimes I'll have like, say, powerlifters who are super enthusiastic, who follow everyone on Instagram, who watch every YouTube video, who come to me with questions, who say, well, what about this bench technique? And what about this belt? And is 11 mils versus 10 mils much different? I'm like, dude, like, so I can find that there'll be differences. And so I guess that's where I'm wondering, when you have such a education heavy approach, do you ever find that you get, not necessarily pushback, but like, do you ever find that you get, not the outcomes that you might have hoped for?
Probably not too much. Like, I haven't really had that experience where I'm trying to explain something and they're just like, shut the fuck up. It's always been that when I'm, look, I think it's maybe a level of the only reason they're probably switching off is because I'm just yapping, because look, I love it so much. I love teaching people, and it's probably just that the only reason that they're probably shut off or they're not really listening is because they just realize that I'm just yapping on something, man.
Here we go.
Like,
2-minute rant, sorry.
I think that it's probably people. I think it's the way that you're teaching something, because it's always the like way of, you're an expert when you can teach. You're in an elevator. There's Einstein, there's a 30-year-old man, and then there's a 4-year-old little girl. You're trying to explain one topic that all of them can understand. So obviously you're not being patronizing and being like, the bicep curl does this and all that different shit. You're explaining something the best of your ability for someone to understand. Because I never really met someone who, when they start to understand something that they don't understand, they don't want to have a bar of it. You know what I mean? As soon as people start understanding things, they're like, well, that's interesting. Like, they start to, like, learning is just, it's so much fun. Like, it's the best. Like, you learn something new. You're never like, that was shit. You're always like, well, that's fascinating. I'm going to tell the next 5 people, and then they learn that thing, and then you learn something new. So I definitely reckon it's the way that you approach things. If you go too in depth and too scientific and too this, then someone just switches off. Like, I don't want to learn a topic that I don't understand, and someone starts to just go about all these buzzwords and all these confusing things. I want them to understand using, again, dumb analogies, like doing all that different stuff. And then they understand that and they're like, oh, that was fascinating. The level of fascination they have varies, but it's always fascinating to learn something new.
So it sounds like you want to bring it down to their level, like it has to be appropriate to the individual in front of you, I suppose.
100%, like definitely. Like it's always the you always have to explain it in a way that anyone can understand it, not being too patronizing, but not being way too confusing. It's always you got to explain in the way that they'll understand, and people will take it in. You know, whether or not they want to or not, they will. It's just the way that it is.
So obviously a big aspect of your coaching approach is education, but another big tenet that you've described to me before is psychology and kind of understanding the person in front of you. And you even used the word before, psyche. I think that come up in something that you were saying in your approach. And has this always been something that's been important to you, or something that you've just kind of like discovered in your practice going, well, the more people I'm coaching, the more I'm realizing this is actually something I need to really tackle directly?
Look, it's always been a part of my coaching, but I never really realized it. You learn from a young age as a PT that buy-in is really important. If the individual doesn't buy into what you're trying to give them, whether it's you're just trying to sell them the service or you're trying to actually get them to buy into, the program or whatever it is, if they don't have that, it's not going to work. So the level of buy-in can really vary. If someone's just like, they look at and they see, a video online and it's just a really cool video that you made, they could buy into that. But sometimes people come in there and they're just being, I'm sure that you've had a client that walks in and says, oh, try and impress me, impress me with what you know or something like that. And you're just trying your best to, show them that you have the ability to do that. And I think that that's definitely working with the psyche. But furthermore about that with like psychology and coaching the psyche and stuff like that, it's also teaching just people how to be tough or how to be strong mentally when it comes to specifically like powerlifting, because it's a hard thing to do, man. Lifting heavy fucking weights all the time, and you've got sore joints and stuff like that. Sometimes you need to go like on the psychological level. Like you've looked through the whole program. I don't know, they've got a little bit of a sore elbow or a bit, but they're always sore, something like that. And you're looking at it and you're like, this program's fine. It's this person that really needs to, not to be too mean, but they just need to toughen up a little bit. And that's when you try and think about, okay, how can I approach this? What are the words that I can say to this individual to make them just go like that? And then they're like, oh shit, yeah, no, I just need to thug this out. I just need to toughen this up, because that's one of my favorite things to say to someone if they talk to me about like a little niggle or something like that. The first thing I ask them before to look at the program or find a different approach, I just say, can you thug this out? Can you just keep pushing through? And if they're like, yeah, I think I can, then it's like, cool, go do it. If it's worse or if it's not working, cool, we'll find that different approach. But I always like to look at the psyche first, because a lot of the time it's that mental barrier that people create that really is affecting their ability to either progress, to get better, or to do anything else. And it's just finding that approach of how to say these specific words to that individual for them to be able to achieve that thing.
It can be a hard thing to teach, I find, psyche.
100%. Yeah.
I think I spoke about this with a previous guest, and it's escaping me with whom and exactly what we spoke about. It might have been Victor, actually. But sometimes, some people just have it, maybe they grew up playing sports and they're very, they're tough cookies by nature, and other people just don't have it. And it can be very hard to teach someone how to toughen that out and to just push through the difficulty of training, because training is not easy, like, as you described. I really like what you said when you said, what are the words that I can use? And you kind of said that even a couple of times. And it's clear that like word choice and language and communication, like that's very important in helping someone develop that psyche. You can't apply a blanket approach and just yell the same things at everybody. Clearly, you're very thoughtful about, based on this person, what are the words, what's going to be the thing that actually gets their psyche to click and go, yeah, I really want to push through this, because it might be very different, the words that you use, I presume, with Einstein versus a 4-year-old girl. And so where they're at in their own journey. Is that something that you think you're conscious of, or it's just like, it's so obvious to you that it just comes out naturally?
Trying my best to be very conscious about it. Some of my clients, it becomes very easy, the approach that I do, because as soon as you figure out what really fires them up or what really gets them going, it's just really easy to come to. I think the hard thing is, or what we try and individualize is, just when you have a new client, when you're trying to talk to them and figure out what gets them, going in a certain aspect. Excuse me, what gets them fired up or what gets them motivated to do something. So it's really like it's hard at the start, then it becomes more natural because you know what works. It usually, when it comes to like the psychological element of things, usually like for that individual, when it worked in the first place, it's going to work again. That like some things might change a little bit, but it's the same kind of like theme or something like that. So it's at the start, you kind of communicate with this person, you talk to them, you figure out what works, what motivates them, what is affecting their psyche at the time. And then, when you figure those things out, it's usually, you learn that it's the same thing, what gets them in the slump and then what gets them out of the slump. And you just kind of work with that. Maybe have a different approach in how you communicate that specific thing. But you notice that with individuals where, when they're down, it's the same feeling. It's not different. It might be a different thing that caused them to feel a bit down, but it's the same feeling. So usually the same feeling to get them back up, or the same thing you say to get them back up is the same thing as before, or what worked in the past. So you learn more about the individual as you go.
You mentioned earlier buy-in and gaining and earning buy-in from a lifter. And to me, when I hear the term buy-in, I think of the word trust. A lifter has to trust in you as a coach. They have to trust in the program. They have to trust in the process. And you kind of made that like little joke story about, sometimes you'll have people come in who don't have the buy-in 100%, and that you kind of need to earn it from them. And you got to earn that trust. Are there things that you do specifically to gain buy-in from people? Because the reason I think of this is like when I get a new client, especially an online client, I'm thinking, right? It's usually someone that's been following you for a while. Like, people don't just inquire with a random dude that they just found 5 minutes ago. It's someone they've been following for a while. They like what they have to say. They like their Instagram posts. They like their podcast or whatever it might be. And after a year of listening to JP's podcast, they're like, man, this JP guy's pretty fucking smart. I'm going to get him as a coach. And so there's already buy-in there. That this guy already knows who you are. They've got like even though I don't know who they are, they already know who I am. And they really believe in my message and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like that's easy enough. But when you're in a physical space, like you guys are, someone is in the area and their brother says to them, dude, you need to build up your strength. They Google strength gym near me. They find you. They have no idea who the fuck you are. But you're the closest one, you're convenient, whatever it might be. Like you said, it can be a little bit more challenging because you need to like kind of show off your like strengths, I suppose, get that buy-in, earn that trust.
For sure. Look, in powerlifting specifically, what I've noticed is that there's buy-in on two different planes. There's the level that you are as a coach, and the only real way that you can prove that is to either show them results themselves, or show them the results you've given to your last clients. That's really the only thing you can do. And maybe sometimes it's just your personality. Your personality is really attracted to that person, so they're like, yeah, I like this guy. So it's like that type of a level. There's also the buy-in of how strong you are, and look, I don't mind having that type of a mentality. Like, I think that all a powerlifting coach needs to do is be a powerlifter, and that's it. Like, if they've done powerlifting in the past or something like that, that can help people buy into what you're trying to give them, because they see that, like, look, you might not be the strongest, but you're putting in a fucking effort, and you're putting in, you're showing them that you approach this sport seriously. So when they come to you for coaching, they know how serious you take this. And so I think that it does merge together where you have your coaching kind of like hat or your abilities, and you have your sporting or your athletic abilities. It comes together. And if you could put those two things together, that buy-in is a lot easier. And that's what I've noticed. Like, some people just, when they come and they're like, I liked you just because you were strong at the start, but you were actually, you're a pretty decent coach. Like, you know what you're talking about here. So it does help a lot more. So it's definitely that trust comes from your ability not only to coach, but the way that you approach the sport. And the way that you approach the sport, it really shows when you are doing that sport yourself.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you're saying that it's not like so critical that someone is strong themselves, but they're just involved and trying to improve, I suppose.
Oh, 100%. Like, as long as people see that individual and the way they approach things, like, again, it just always comes back to the psyche of things. But if they see you just lift, like, lifting heavy weights does help, being the strongest out of this does help. But a lot of people, they just look back and they just see the effort. Like, they see the effort you put in, and they see the approach that you have in the sport. And it helps them buy in so much easier.
I think another thing as well is oftentimes lifters, clients, whoever it is, whether it's someone new in your gym or someone you've been coaching for a long time, they often look at the coach as, I don't want to use it as like an inspiration. It's a very strong word, but like as a reference point, as someone like, I want to be like you, like
Yeah,
not in
100%.
an idealistic way, but in a of like, I really like what you stand for. You're really cool. You're healthy and fit. And I want to be healthy and fit. You're big and strong, and I want to be big and strong, whatever it might be. And so they can almost kind of see the path laid out in front of them and say, I'm currently a bit of a couch potato, and I want to be a bit healthier, fitter, and stronger. You're along the path, and I want to kind of move along the path. And sometimes, ironically, if someone's like too big and strong, like if they're too serious,
Yeah.
it can be totally unrelatable to someone who's new. They're like, you're just like in a different world to me. Like you breathe, like you sleep and breathe protein, and I don't even know the difference between a barbell and a dumbbell. So like I can't even relate to you. Whereas sometimes having someone who's like along the path, they're not very genetically gifted, they're just lifting and having it go, and they're actually a really good coach as well, like technically, that can actually be a strength as well, I find.
Yeah, like it is quite hard sometimes to, like, you do see it a lot where you have the top lifters in the world, and people are like, I'm going to get coached by them because they must be amazing coaches. And you look at it, like, you might see the programming and stuff, and you're like, oh, maybe they're not the best. Look, some of those guys are fantastic coaches, they really are, and they're really in the sport, but sometimes they're not the best. So I think some people do like to go to someone who does seem approachable, and sometimes approachable means not there, not all the way up. They see them, and they're always going to local comps. They're always, and I guess the personality is they're just always smiling and stuff like that. But I do get that, where it's like, someone who is competing at worlds constantly, they're scary, they're unapproachable. But someone who is trying to work up to it, they might be able to go to worlds. Well, they might be competing at a pretty high level, but because they're scrapping it out at a local level at times, you're like, that person seems approachable. And it's just, I do get that, because it is a bit hard sometimes when people they're scared of those those high level lifters, but then you actually talk to them and they're actually pretty nice. But I think that level of where they're trying to go to that high level, people do see that, and they're like, that's what I'm trying to do too, and they code to that person more frequently than not.
Ultimately, our main goal as coaches is outcomes, results, and we want our lifters to get bigger and stronger, move towards their goals, whatever they might be, become a national champion, break a record, win team champs, whatever it is. And one of the most critical aspects to getting to those goals is time, right? And that's something that you've talked about before, having that kind of long-term vision, sticking it out, keeping people on the path. And it can be challenging. Like you said, coaching is hard. Lifting's hard. Coaching is also hard, but lifting is very hard. It's tiring. So many lifters don't maybe achieve their potential because they just can't stick it out for as long as it's necessary to get to those goals. Are there things that you currently do in the gym and with the lifters that you're working with to help them stay on that path long term so that they can achieve those long term goals?
I want my lifters to express patience all the time. I try my best to, sometimes they're not at the level. I'd say they always break up their lifts, because usually it's always two lifts that do well, one lift that does terrible. And they always look at the terrible lift all the time. It's without a doubt. I always yell at them saying it's a total based sport. If your total's going up, that's the main thing. And they look at their deadlift and their bench are going amazing, but their squat's going shit. And I'm like, why are you worried about that? Don't stress about that. But I think that it's always about expressing patience. If you put in the fucking work, it will pay dividends. It really, really will. So my main goal for them is, again, it's always about the psychology of things. It's to express that patience and also just have fun along the way. It really is about having that overall fun. And that's what I love about the community at the collective, is because, we have a fun community. Everyone comes in specifically to say hi to people. I'm sure that if some of those guys, they were at the level they're at now, they're strong, but they go to a commercial gym, they will probably give up eventually, because it's just boring. So it's definitely all about that element of patience, because it doesn't come quickly, not to everyone. You might look at someone else and it's come very quickly to them. I've seen that frequently, especially comparing it with me. Like my favorite example I always say to people and is Anthony Hill. I was I was coaching him at the start. He's been training at Melbourne Uni for a very long time. I've seen his growth. He's a 105. I'm a 105. I started earlier than he did, and he's already at Worlds. I don't give a fuck. I'm in my own journey right now. I'm doing my own thing. I respect where he's going, and I'm very, very happy with the way that he's doing. But that's my favorite kind of comparison, that when someone else makes a comparison, I'm like, dude, I'm in the same boat. I see people all the time that I might have started earlier or started at the same time, and they're already at this high level. They're already so strong. But it's just expressing that patience with yourself, with your ability that you will get to where you want to go eventually. It might not come next year. It might not come in 2 years. We are all different individuals. It will come when it comes. Just be patient with it. Some people can't express that and they give up too early because, they were at a really good level. But again, someone got stronger than them and they start freaking out and they start thinking this is useless to me. But they weren't expressing that patience. It's just all about that patience.
Why is it, do you think, that some lifters get have those better results and that better progress? Someone like, using Anthony as an example, is he doing something different to you? Or are you doing something wrong? And how do you kind of communicate that with your lifters when they are making those comparisons and they're saying, I'm not improving as much as this guy? Maybe they're even comparing themselves with someone else in the gym who's improved faster than them. Like, what kind of conversations are you having with your lifters? And how are you justifying it, I guess? It's like I said, using you and the Anthony example, it's like you're training hard as well.
Yeah, look, it is hard sometimes because it's sometimes that person's just better. It's just the way it is in any sport, really. Like it's you see so many different athletes in so many different sports who are just genetically gifted, and it's just how it is. Like they might have been doing more sports when they were younger, and it's too late to do that now. You started powerlifting as your first sport at 18, and this person started rugby or football at 12, continued it up until they were 18, and then they started powerlifting, and they're just better. But they started earlier. That's just how it is. Like time is, you can't really take it back. So it's really what you can do in now that will help you, not what you should have done in the past. That's just the way it is. But it's not really necessarily what either I'm doing wrong or what the other individual's doing wrong. It's just what the other person did originally, like they, or what genetic stuff that they have. It's just it's the person, it's the individual. Some people are just stronger than other people, and it's just the way it is. So, but it's not necessarily, that's not a way of giving up. It's a way of being like, I should just work hard. Like maybe I should just keep going because maybe I'm not at the genetic cap that I am at right now. And that's the fun thing, or that's the exciting thing, because you don't know what you can achieve without doing it. If you think that I'm never going to achieve anything, you probably won't, because that's your mentality. But if you're like, okay, I see this person stronger than me, cool, no worries, but they are still progressing, I'm still progressing, let's see where I can go. Maybe they will reach a cap, maybe they will plateau, and then I will catch up to them. You never know unless you fucking do it. That's the main thing. So I think it's just trying to explain to them that it's like, look at their history. They were doing sport earlier. They were doing resistance training earlier. That's why they were doing it that well. You started a little bit late, and that's fine. That's no stress. It's not like it's too late. You just started later than they were. Just keep going. You never know where you're going to get to unless you just keep going. Keep that consistency and just be patient with it.
I love that. But I think part of what you're describing there almost sounds like maintaining some hope in the lifter, because, whenever I ask that question or something similar to other people, sometimes they'll say kind of what you said as well, which is, sometimes people just have better genetics and you might not have that genetic potential or whatever it might be. But then you said something that a lot of people won't say, which is, but you never know. Like, keep at it. You never know. And I think it's such a subtle kind of comment, but I think it's actually important because it keeps a bit of hope and it keeps a bit of motivation in the back of someone's mind, that they can achieve bigger and better things. You kind of also said earlier, someone might discover that they're not improving as much as someone else, and they might think, well, this is useless to me. They give up. This is useless to me. And I think mentioning or bringing up with them that, hey, you can still improve. And even if you're not improving as fast as other people are right now, you might have a second win in your career. You might catch up to them later. You might still achieve big things. Can be very I don't know, hope inspiring, or hope inducing, I suppose.
you're never going to achieve anything by not doing it. So just because that person achieved something earlier than you did doesn't mean you can never achieve it. So it can be, I think that's fine to have hope. Like, I think it's fine to be hopeful that you could potentially achieve something great, because unless you got to put in the work. If you're not putting in the work, you're never going to achieve it. So why not put in the work, reap rewards from it? Because regardless of if you're trying to, say you are trying to achieve coming first at Worlds, but you're just scratching to nationals, if you have that goal of shooting for the stars and you're hitting the moon constantly, that's still a great fucking journey, and you still have reaped so many rewards from that along the way. So it's not giving them like fake hope or false hope. It's giving them hope that they will achieve something great, whether it is the goal that they have. Again, you don't know. Just keep going with it. You don't know what you can achieve. That should be an exciting thing, because sometimes, like, when you break it down from the smaller levels of just getting a PB. Like, sometimes when I have a squat on my back that feels heavy, and then I'm in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if I can achieve this, but why not just duke it out and figure it out? Like, let's just see what happens. If I don't get it, cool. There's always next time. There will be next time. But what if I do get it? That's awesome. I'm one step closer of getting better. And it's just like, it's having that mentality of just stick it out, man. Like, you never know what can happen. I didn't think that I would be where I'm at in 5 years' time. Like, look, I want to always be better. I always constantly want to be better. But I look back what I was doing 5 years ago compared to now, I've done very well. I will say that. I feel like I've done amazing, both, business-wise, coaching-wise, and athlete-wise. I have achieved like some great things, but I want to do better. I always want to do better, and I always want to do it. And to do that, I just got to keep going. I got to keep putting in the work. I got to keep working hard, and I will get those rewards. I know that for a fact, because you never get nothing out of working hard.
And mate, you have done excellently, and you should be very proud of yourself, because you're doing great stuff. One thing that you kind of said there that I want to kind of like extend on a little bit myself is you said something like, if you put in the work and you go the distance and, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you land amongst the stars. And even if you don't get to your like final goal, it's still a great journey, and the rewards that you'll get along the way. And I think that's such an important element. And that's something that's really big for me when I'm talking with lifters, is there are so many benefits and rewards, and there's so much value you can get from this journey that aren't like the objective, like 300 kilo deadlift or like whatever it might be. And of course, having the goal of like making the national podium or going to Worlds or breaking some record, that can kind of like guide you. But along the way, you'll just have so many positive experiences. You make so many friends, and you'll have so many great learnings and a lot of disappointments along the way, but that kind of builds your character as well. It's like, there's so much value to get that isn't just, the big number that you've got on your mind, or the medal, or the singlet that you want to earn to wear one day. And I think it can be very distracting to think that the only value from the sport is the numbers, when there's actually so much more value you can extract in other ways.
Oh, 100%. And it's that, that evolution of maturity of yourself and the athlete. And it's like, you start to realize, okay, after 5 years, I'm not at a 300 kilo deadlift. Me, specifically, that's me saying me. But I have achieved awesome things. I've progressed my total. I've, progressed all these different things. And it's because I worked hard at it. And, I always say that, like, I say this to my athletes. It's a total-based sport. Like, that's your progression. Like, that's what it is. But again, it's not only just that. It's how you've gotten better, not only physically as an athlete, but also mentally as an athlete. And I know that I've become a much, more resilient person. And I reckon it's because not only of, my work and stuff like that, but it's also, the efforts I put into my lifting and my sport. So I've definitely reaped not only physical strength rewards from it. I've reaped a lot of mental strength rewards from it. And it's helped me just become a better person in general, because it's all connected. Your health, your mental health, your physical health, everything, it's all connected, and it all can affect things positively, and it can affect things negatively.
One thing that stands out to me hearing you talk is you're obviously very motivated. You're very passionate about, um, you've obviously learned these lessons over the years of like, hey, when I put in effort, I get reward. I'm going to keep doing that. You kind of said learning's fun, like that's very natural to you,
Yeah.
or all these things that you're kind of talking about. They clearly come from a place of deep understanding. What I mean is like you clearly know these things in your soul, and so it comes out and expresses itself in the way that you go about your training, the way that you go about your life, your business, all that kind of stuff. When you're working with someone who doesn't have that so naturally, who hasn't learned those lessons, they're 3 years into the training, 4 years into the training, their plateau, their bench has been stuck at 110 kilos for the last 3 years. They've done all that kind of stuff. Um, as a coach, you want to keep someone on track, motivated, keep moving forward. But when they get to that stage, which almost everyone gets to at some point, they get to a stage after a few years where the newbie gains have like evaporated, the thrill of competing is kind of evaporated. They've already done 4 or 5 comps, and so it's not that novel thing anymore. And you really are in the trenches now, and it can be hard. And I think that's like there are a number of obstacles along the way, and some people drop off at those earlier obstacles. But I think that's one of the biggest, hardest obstacles where someone gets to that point, they're not improving very much. They discover BJJ or Ironman, and the temptation to buy a $15,000 bike is there. And you're as a powerlifting coach, you're like, no, you're so close. You're on the precipice. You're on the
Yeah.
precipice of like this huge like breakthrough in your training. So I want to ask you, like, do you get that situation very often? How do you keep people stay on track? How do you keep people to stay on track? How do you avoid dreaded burnout and demotivation that comes after a number of years? What's your approach?
As a coach, there, there's not a huge amount that you can do. Like look, there is stuff you can do. You can make sure that you're not absolutely, gassing the individual out by giving them so much work to do when they have other things outside of their life. But I think just at the end of the day, if you show the individual that you're as a coach that you have a lot of faith in their abilities to achieve great things, like if you show them that you have buy-in to them, a lot of people will realize they're like, oh shit, maybe I should stick this out. But at times you just have to look, there might be some times where you just have to cut your losses. As long as you've tried to show them that you're like, no dude, I'm not giving up on you. I want you to keep trying. Like I won't give up on you. You won't give up on me. Let's keep this out. Just try and do your best to prove that. But there will be times where that individual's just like, they've already made their mind up. Like they've already given up. And it's just the way that individual is. And there's only so much you can do. You can try and change up the program to make sure that they're, uh, either they have shorter sessions or something like that, where they don't feel like they're taking up so much time in the gym, or you realize that they're really getting really beat up from the training, so you start to minimize the volume or stuff like that. Like from a technical standpoint, those things you definitely can do. From a mental standpoint, it's just showing them that you're not giving up on them. Like you're not, just because they're not putting in an effort doesn't mean you shouldn't. I always like to say that it's like if you put in either 10 or 15 or 20% more than that individual's giving you. If they're giving you 100%, you're giving them 120%. That's awesome. But if they're only giving you 50%, don't put in like 100%. But that more percent, that little bit more, does show a lot. It does show that you care a lot about that person, and sometimes that helps them put that percentage a little bit more, especially when they're on the edge of giving up and you're like, dude, don't. And you have that conversation, you have that one-on-one, and you're like trying your best, you're fighting for them because you're like, dude, you are really close to achieving great things, or you haven't even scratched the surface. Like this is just the start of like some great things. If they see that, a lot of people see that, they're like, okay, maybe I should duke this out for a little bit longer. But then there's times where you just have to cut your losses. Like that person already purchased that bike and they already, rode 40 Ks a week and they're like, I like this better. It's like, it's just the individual is the individual. Sometimes they like trying different things. Like you will know that when they come to you. Like they might be like, you're like, what's your training history? It's like last year I did a triathlon. The year before that I did a marathon. The year before that I did a boxing match. The year before that I did this. And you're like, yeah, I think this person's going to be with me for about a year. It's going to be a great year, but they're only going to be here for a year. So it's just identifying that person. And then also realizing like, Is it that they've just changed their interest, or is it that they're really in a slump right now and they think that the best thing is for them to give up? So it's open communication, just communicating with that person, trying to identify those things. But at the end of the day, if you show to them that you really care about them and you really care about their goals and you really care about their progression, a lot of people will be like, okay, this guy's crazy. He wants to fight for me. He really wants to fight for my goals. I should stick with this guy. So yeah, like a coach that doesn't care, like they're never going to keep people. They're just going to have a constant turnover rate and that's it. But people who care, they're going to retain their clients a lot more.
Is burnout a natural consequence or a natural like byproduct of what powerlifting is? It's repetitive, it's 3 lifts all the time. You have to train specifically, you have to do SBD. Or are there things that we can do as coaches? I'm just thinking like there's probably going to be someone out there listening to this who wants to get into coaching. Are there things that we can proactively do to kind of prevent or mitigate burnout before it even happens? Because like you said, sometimes people have already made up their mind and the ship's gone. Like it's already too late to be making interventions. But are there things that we can be doing, even early on in our practice to keep people motivated and avoiding those feelings of like burnout and repetition?
Look, you can do your best to keep the individual engaged, and this is where I'm going to lead on to something about burnout. But at the end of the day, with powerlifting, it can be a pretty boring sport in terms of like in execution, in training specifically. Competition is so much fun. It's adrenaline inducing and stuff like that. But to be very good in the sport, be very good in the sport, you have to do things consistently. I've seen a lot of people, when they start talking about burnout, I really don't believe they're burnt out. I reckon they're just bored and they want to do something new. That is fine. That is perfectly fine. But that probably isn't going to be conducive to your specific powerlifting goals. I'm a really big believer in consistency and specificity. And if you want to get better at the sport, you need to be like that. You might have blocks that are a little bit different. You might be excited to do a bit more like volume heavy blocks. That's fine. And you make sure that you understand the individual and you make sure that like if they enjoy doing, singles all year round, do singles all year round. But if that person really enjoys doing volume, then maybe have some blocks where there's a bit more volume or something like that. Specifically off season. Eddie really likes to get people into powerlifting and bodybuilding. He reckons that kind of like switch over between on season, off season keeps them engaged. I do like to have a little bit of that idea where, yeah, that might be a bit more volume heavy. Maybe we'll take a little bit of sets away from SBD, just a little bit. But if you want to do powerlifting, you've got to realize that you need to be doing SBD consistently. It's a skill you need to retain. And if you are saying that you're burnt out, this is your hobby, dude. Like, this is what you're doing for health and fitness and for fun. If you don't like doing it, you've gotten bored, and you can make the choice. If you're like, look, I just wanted to do this as a thing on the side. I probably want to change my health and fitness goals. That's you. That's fine. Don't say you're burnt out though. You're bored. It's fine. It's fine to be bored in something that if it's your career and you've put in so much effort into it and stuff like that, and you got bored of that, you really need to reevaluate a lot of things. But at the end of the day, like you said before, you said we are all Gen Pops because, we do different jobs. Like, well, with us, we coach, so powerlifting is basically our life. But, we've got accountants that do powerlifting. We've got computer techs that do powerlifting. This is just their hobby on the side. If they're not enjoying it and they feel like they're burnt out, I don't reckon they're burnt out. I think they're just bored. The best thing you could possibly do is foster a community that keeps that individual engaged. Again, that's what we're doing with the collective. We're creating a nice community and stuff like that. In terms of like the way that they lift and the way that they just ask them what keeps them engaged. And if it needs to kind of like mold in with what your coaching style is, with how you do it. In my case, consistency and specificity, and what they enjoy doing. If they enjoy doing a little bit more arms, yeah, cool. Give them a bit more arms, maybe like some arm volume. But it has to be consistent with what you're trying to do. And in this case, as a powerlifting coach specifically, it's to get them stronger in powerlifting.
Yeah, I like your take that potentially lifters might just be bored and that if they are bored and they're going to do something else, that's totally fine, right? Like you said, at the end of the day, it is a hobby and it has to be something that's enjoyable. And if you're not enjoying it, that's fine. What would you then say is the difference between boredom and burnout, or like what actually would be burnout? What would be an example of someone who's genuinely burnt out? Or are you saying that burnout's probably not the right term and it's actually just boredom?
I reckon that if there's an individual that has 10 kids, works 40-hour weeks, and tries to do powerlifting, and they do all of that 100%, and they come in there and they look like they're a zombie, that's probably burnout. But that's not just because they're doing powerlifting, it's because they have a lot of other stuff happening in
Other
their
commitments,
life.
right?
Exactly. I'm not saying don't have 10 kids. If you want to have 10 kids, go for it. But that's because they have other commitments.
Don't have 10 kids, guys. Don't.
But if the person has like a really nice cushy job, because nowadays working from home has made things a lot easier for managing work-life balance, and they do things, they come into the gym and they're like, they just come in here and they're like doing the best, they're putting in 100%, that eventually nothing's changed in their outside life. Nothing's changed, like everything keeps the same. These are the questions you need to ask them when they come to you and they're like, I'm tired all the time. You say, eating, has it been okay? Sleep, has it been okay? Work, has it gotten more stressful? And if they say those three things, they're like, no, those things are fine. It's my lifting. It's like, well, dude, I think you're just getting bored of it. Like, I think that like, you're just, it's always, I'm a big believer in the biopsychosocial model where all these different things connect: psychology, physical, your social element, all those things connect. All those things connect to become a human being. If two of the things are okay and there's just a specific thing that, I don't know, you're getting bored of, or like you feel you're getting burnt out from, it's probably just boredom. But if these two things are getting really fucked, your social and your psyche, and that's affecting your physicality, then it's probably there's a bit of burnout there. So again, I don't believe that burnout is a common occurrence for people who, for university students that live at home, they only work like, I don't know, like 5-10 hour weeks, whatever they work, and they come into the gym at very reasonable times. Their times, they get to go to bed at a reasonable time, they get all their food at a reasonable time. It's like, and then they come into there and they're like, coach, I'm burnt out. I'm like, bro, you're not burnt out, man. It's like, you're just bored. We can change some things up in the program to just kind of keep things a bit engaging. But, we're keeping SPDs relatively the same because it's been working. You're getting stronger, or, you're getting, it's helped you before. Again, I don't think it's burnout. I do reckon there is such thing as burnout. 100% there's such thing as burnout, but it's because of other factors. It's not necessarily because of a sport you're doing as a hobby and it's on the side and it's something you're just meant to be enjoying.
Yeah, it sounds like the way you're defining it wasn't exactly clear to me initially, but now it makes a lot of sense. Where someone who is like, burnout is when someone is truly excited and interested in powerlifting and they want to train, but there's so much demand on them outside of the gym, family, work, personal circumstances, whatever it might be. They're barely making it to the gym. When they are at the gym, their session quality is crap because they're so, like, they've got a rush and they were up at 5 a.m. this morning and they're training now, it's 8:30 at night, blah, 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 all those things. It's like someone is still excited and enthusiastic about powerlifting, but powerlifting is almost like a straw that's breaking their back. And it's almost like, hey, I need to give powerlifting a break because I need to attend to the rest of my life for now.
Yeah.
Whereas what you're saying is sometimes people will call it burnout, but it's like, no, you're bored. You actually just want to do other things. Like, you have the time to do this, you just don't want to. And those are different cases.
Yeah. I see it all the time. Like, we have dads and mums in the gym, people who are working fucking hard. Like, Aaron, he's got a kid, he's got a new job. He came into the gym the other day and he was like, dude, I almost fell asleep lying on the bench press the other day. And we were just joking about that. But he wasn't coming to me being like, I should give up. He was just saying, oh, dude, I'm fucked. Like, right now, I'm pretty burnt out. Like, it's like he was. But he wasn't thinking about, how do I give this up? He's just thinking about, I just need to go to bed. I just need to have a good night's sleep. Once I have a good night's sleep, once I have a feed, I'll be fine. Like, that's being genuinely burnt out. But then I've had people who like, oh, I'm always injured, or I'm always, like, look, being always injured, there's something wrong there. You should fix that. But like, they're like, I'm just not progressing. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And they're like, maybe I should give up. It's like, you're probably just either getting too bored or you just don't have the mental capacity or the mental resilience to keep pushing through. And look, you can do your best as a coach to change those things as long as you show them again that you're trying to put in 100% here, you're giving them your all, and they see that, they still see that, and they're like, no, I'm going to give running a shot. Cool, man. No worries, go for it. And look, you always say it's like, well, look, we could do it alongside. Maybe we'll decrease the frequency if you want to keep going with that. But sometimes they just like, no, I'm going to give something new a try. I'm going to go for a marathon. It's like, okay, dude, no worries. It's like, we're still friends, no stress. But it's like, it's all right. It's no stress. As long as you, as a coach, you prove to yourself that, you prove to them that you've given them your all and you're still trying to give them your all. And they need to give them themselves, or they need to give you their all. If they, again, just say, no good, no stress. Just cut your losses there.
I mentioned this earlier about helping people stay in the sport because there's so much value to be gained from participating, from being involved, from training. And one thing you actually mentioned it twice, was about fostering a community. And I think that's such an important element to providing value. It's like by having a good community in the gym, at the collective and at TSF, that's another positive. That's another, element of someone's training experience that makes them enjoy it, that makes them want to keep doing it. I know that's been a very conscious thing for me, is trying to develop a good social element, a good community aspect, because if people are enjoying coming to the gym, chatting to their friends, hanging out, then when things do get hard and when they do get a bit bored or burnt out or whatever it might be, they're more likely to at least keep coming, because if nothing else, they just want to see their mates. So they come to the gym, oh, I'm here anyway, I might as well do a few sets of bench, I wasn't going to, and then all of a sudden they've done a full session that they otherwise wouldn't have had. And I think that's one of the like strengths that, you and I have, having our small gyms, is that we can provide that community and we can provide that element to people. And you made a reference before about someone going to like a commercial gym, and if they were going to a commercial gym, they would have given up sooner because they don't have that network around them. Yeah, I think it's just like a unique thing that we have, and it's clearly something that you're aware of as well, and that you're trying to foster at the collective.
Yeah, that's all we really wanted to do. Like, okay, there was two things of making the gym. It was good equipment, but it was also the good community. That were the two things that we wanted to do. And look, we've had constantly people that, they come in for coaching, and then again, like either they get injured or they want to stop, but they continuously still come to the gym because they want to see their friends, they want to see the community. And we say, yeah, go for it. Like, we're not going to be like, just because they want to stop coaching with us, we're going to be like, no, you need to piss off. It's like, no, if you want to keep training with us, yeah, we're 100%. Because like from a business standpoint, they probably want to come back to you as coach. Like they will eventually, because they forgot how much they enjoyed it. They just needed 2 weeks off, and they're like, oh shit, let's go back to it. But we just want to foster this great community of people that want to not only just support each other, but to push each other and to, make them better, like physically, mentally. I've always seen that, like, the more I hang out with people that are like that, the better I become. I train at the collective constantly, and those guys help me push me to become a better coach and to become a better athlete. I've trained in communities in the past that have done the same, and it's been an awesome experience. And I just wanted that, but I wanted it to also be like a bit of my own thing, be mine, Edgar's, Jaden's thing, where we build this community and we foster this kind of like this hive mind of just people that just want to become better people. And it's been really, really awesome.
That's awesome, man. I think, yeah, like you said, being around people like that is very positive. It's almost like a rising tide raises all ships kind of vibe, where everyone's doing what they can. That inspires everyone else, and you kind of have this like group effort to just improve. One thing I always say as well about the gym is, like, by definition, everyone in the gym, like everyone that we have at TSF, are generally on average more than the average person, motivated. They generally have their shit together. They want to achieve things. And so when you got someone that's new that walks in the door, I often will say to them, you're going to be around, it's so cliche, but like-minded people who actually want to improve. Whereas oftentimes you don't have that, maybe at work, people are just like sitting on their hands and they're just happy to be there, and they're not actually like trying to improve. Maybe at your commercial gym, again, same thing. People are just turning up, spinning their wheels, not really getting anywhere. But when you put yourself in those environments, I think good things just happen because of the people that's around. It's almost like a a positive feedback loop on itself, I suppose. Dan, it's been a great conversation. So we're going to wrap it up there. I think you've shared some awesome insights. It's great to hear a little bit about the work that you guys are doing at the collective, your perspectives. I particularly enjoyed, hearing what you had to say about this like boredom burnout conversation, because that wasn't so clear to me. But I think I'm really on board with what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense to me now. But also just everything. Like I think we have a lot of similarities in what we're doing. So yeah, I appreciate you making the time and sharing so much.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Best of luck with everything in the future, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. You too.
Cool.